Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The American heavyweight contender Adam Kownacki is out for redemption and revenge over Robert Helenius, who stopped him 18 months ago in what was seen as a moderate shock at the time. So this fight, it features on the Tyson Fury vs Deontay Wilder undercard this weekend, which is stacked, and I mean stacked, with heavyweight fights. Overall, a great undercard. Overall, a great card. I think it's probably the best card of the year, but I'm obviously a heavyweight channel, so partial to heavyweight cards like this. But in regards to Kownacki, many questions do linger. He was, after all, expected to breeze through Hellinius the first time, but was caught with some good shots while barreling in, no defense, face first, ultimately caught, beaten up and stopped. And this footage that you can see here on screen, it was from Team Charles Martin. And Martin actually, within this clip, raised something that I want to touch on a little bit later on. But first, some comments from Adam Kownacki. He made them on an Instagram live stream, and then later on we will get to Robert Helenius and some of his preparations and some overall general thoughts. First, Kownacki is aware that his aggression was part of his downfall from that first fight.
I'm in the fight game. I'm not in the, even though I probably should be a little more tactical. I love to come forward and bring the action, which obviously cost me, in a big way against Robert. But we worked on that throughout camp to be a little more composed. So I can't wait to get back in there.
In the gym, Kownacki says training camp has been more about making adjustments rather than wholesale changes.
My style has been good to this point, so definitely refined. Just keep working on the little stuff, making it better, and make sure the head movement is better, slipping the punches more, walking behind a double jab instead of lunging forward. Just working on little stuff. I think if I'm able to capitalize on that stuff, I should be good and be able to get Robert Helenius out of there.
The Brooklyn fighter has had Otto Wallin in his camp and says it's been very beneficial having him in for sparring.
A lot, he moves well on his feet, so definitely I think cutting of the ring will go pretty smooth to this fight.
He is also well aware what a win could do for his career.
100%. I think if I win in spectacular fashion, it puts me back in the mix. With this Saturday, a lot happened with Usyk beating Joshua. So now I think this will open up a lot of doors for another great fights to be made in the heavyweight division.
Adam Kownacki says while there's a lot of pressure on him, he's embracing it.
Pressure makes diamonds. So there's always pressure. I have another kid on the way, so it's even more pressure. And I love the pressure, I think the last fight I just got caught with a good shot. So bring the pressure. I can't wait to showcase and why I learned and destroy this guy on October 9th.
Okay, a few thoughts about all that. I think overall, encouraging comments from Adam Kownacki. And it sounds like he's clear on what went wrong the first time around. And he is set about making changes to help him put up a better performance in the rematch. His previous come-forward style, no regard to defense, that was always going to catch up with him. But most people just didn't expect that Hellinius was going to be the guy to take his O. So in the second fight, he certainly needs to be more defensively responsible. To some extent, at least, because compared to the first fight, anything would be an improvement. He's got to move his head. He's got to evade some punches instead of blocking them with his face. And we've seen Robert Helenius can crack. And we already knew that ahead of that Kownacki fight. A lot of guys who faced Helenius have said his punch is certainly one that really does carry some power. And largely, we do know what we're going to get from Robert Helenius. He boxes well, he can move a bit, he can catch you with counter right hands, and that was displayed in that first fight. And he can still carry power while punching on the back foot. And Kownacki, he did actually catch Helenius with some shots in that first fight, and Helenius did weather a few uncomfortable moments before getting on top. But a lot of people forget that. They just think it was all one-way traffic. It was almost against the run of play to some extent that Helenius really started to climb into Kownacki. But one of the questions that always lingers about Adam Kownacki, his weight. In his most recent fights, he's been weighing in around the mid-260s, which for his frame doesn't really suit it, doesn't carry it well, doesn't do a lot for him. And previously, he's already said, especially like the Areola fight, that he'd cut 10 pounds of water weight ahead of the weigh-in, and he was about 275 on fight night. So it's likely Robert Helenius, if he can't have success early on and land something big to change the course of the fight, that Helenius is going to look to bide his time. Play the percentages. He's the bigger man, bigger reach, good jab. He'll use that jab. He will box and move. I think he will be judicious with what he's throwing if this starts to go, deeper into the fight. So Kownacki's got to be in decent shape to go rounds. He has been prone to gassing out later in fights. The Charles Martin one was the best example. Started strong, about 6 rounds, and then ran out of gas and basically was beaten up in the last 4. Almost stopped in the last round. So he needs to be in good condition, especially as he is a volume puncher. So being unnecessarily heavy, throwing a lot of punches, and going rounds, that's got disaster written all over it for later in the fight if he's not in good shape. But judging by these clips on screen that you're seeing, he does look a little bit lighter. But, we've been fooled before in clips where guys are wearing baggy t-shirts. They can be deceptive. Could still weigh in somewhere heavy and we'll go, wow, that we thought he was a little bit lighter than that. But getting to Charles Martin, because he's obviously fought Kownacki, as I mentioned earlier, almost stole the fight later as Kownacki gassed badly. But immediately after that first fight with Helenius, Martin, who was ringside, said this.
You know why? Because all the wars he's been in, gave up.
Yeah.
His chin gave up. Giving up.
At that point about Kownacki's chin, it's a valid one. Has the chin cracked from too many wars, too many hard fights, too much hard sparring in the gym? Some guys do diminish over time in terms of the quality of their chin. They might start out as ironclad and have that reputation, and then it diminishes. I think there's a couple of guys in the heavyweight division now that maybe people have got question marks about. Andy Ruiz Jr. was rocked a few times by Chris Areola. Joseph Parker dropped in the first 10 seconds of a fight by Derek Chisora. Those guys were regarded at, one point in time as having granite chins. Kownacki too was regarded as having a good chin, but his style of leading with his face to block punches, it doesn't lend itself to a career with longevity at the top level of the division. He could still have good fights, entertaining fights at a lower level, but if that chin starts to go and it's on the decline, well, it's not a good sign. But we will quickly find this out on fight night. Maybe it is just that Helenius landed the right shots, that timing came in, caught him with some good shots. He never recovered and ultimately stopped in that fight, that first fight, I should say. And I guess before we round out this video, so Robert Helenius, what's he been up to? So he has been sparring with Nathan Gorman for part of his training camp. He's also been getting some work in America with Elvis Garcia. And that's been in the Deontay Wilder training camp. So Garcia brought in to spar Helenius. And obviously if he's been sparring with Wilder as well, that'll be some hard sparring too. So I think he's coming in well prepared and probably one of the more complete camps of his career. He's had basically, months to prepare for this fight. So either guy is not going to be short of preparation time. If anything, there's the question mark of maybe even overtraining. Because remember, this fight was meant to happen last year, and for whatever reason, it just didn't. It was talked about for, later in the year. The date and the sort of rumors about it, when it was going to be staged, just kept getting pushed out. And now we're, 18 months later. So I think it had to be, and I've speculated this some time ago, that I think it just had to be on a pay-per-view card because the money both guys need to get paid. And I think it's just as simple as that. In the sort of pandemic era, they've got to have some, pay-per-view cards bringing in big money to pay these heavyweights. And this is why I think a lot of the PBC heavyweights in particular, remembering you have Adam Kownacki as a PBC heavyweight. Robert Helenius, PBC, has an option for this fight. So that was as a result of him winning over Kownacki the first time. They've got expectations in what they're going to get paid, and as do other high-profile heavyweights. We haven't seen hide nor hair of Charles Martin or Luis Ortiz for some time. Maybe they should be fighting each other. But Robert Helenius, when he's not injured, especially those hands, he's had a lot of hand problems. He's capable of boxing with some of the best in the division and putting up credible boxing performances. And certainly being healthy last time, no hand problems. We saw what an effective puncher he can be. He is dangerous. He will want to get away some hurtful shots early to discourage Kownacki and keep him at bay. Keep him on the end of his jab and make him think twice about trying to get to the inside. Because obviously if he catches Kownacki coming in, we know he can hurt him. We've seen that. And for me, it is one of these pick 'em fights. So a win either way isn't going to surprise me. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.